Well, welcome in everybody to another interview here on Granbury TV. Today is Thursday, May the 3rd, 2012, and I am visiting with the county judge, Judge Cockerham. Judge Cockerham, glad to have you here today.
Well, thank you very much for having me, David. I appreciate it.
It's a blessed day. Of course, we just enjoyed the National Day of Prayer down at the conference center together. It was a great time.
That was an awesome event, and the music was great by the civic choir, and then they had the children come up and pray for our state and county and the world and the nation, and it was great. It was great.
I hate that I cannot remember his name, but that young man that sings tenor, that did the Lord's Prayer. What an outstanding rendition is that! If you get a chance to see it here on Granbury TV, you've got the program right there.
I've got the program. I was there. His name was Tanner Campbell.
Tanner Campbell. What an outstanding job he did. If you ever get a chance to hear Tanner Campbell sing anything, I mean, the Lord's Prayer, that's just not...
I was impressed.
That was very impressive.
That's right.
Very
That's
impressive.
right.
But we had a great time this morning, but there's things just going on all over the place, and we need to get right to it. The biggest thing just came out the other day. You guys have worked your due diligence, and y'all have been just steadfastly on it, and others in community government here said it would never happen, but y'all did a great job on this EPA thing, and let's talk about that.
I truly am amazed myself because I gave us about a 10% chance of success, and I know I talked to Joey last night, Joey Grisham, our EDC director, and he said he said when we got ready to go to Washington D.C., he said, well, I know we have to go, but he said, I hate to spend the money because I don't really know if it's going to do any good. But we had to do it. I mean, had to do it. And so what we did is there was a lot of people now involved. Joey and I were kind of out front because we went to Region 6 and talked to the now demised Al Armandaris. If all of you have seen it on TV, crucifying the oil companies and all of that. And of course he's resigned now, but we went over and talked to them twice over there, and then went to Washington D.C. and talked to them, and we met with the second in command at the Environmental Protection Agency, and she's the #1 person for air quality. Her name is Gina McCarthy. She's from Boston, so Gina McCarthy, and but I started off telling a story. I told several things. I'm really interested in air quality. I'm really interested in the environment and recycling and all of that.
Absolutely.
But and I don't want to be classified as a tree hugger, though, because I think reasonableness needs to go in there.
Right.
So anyway, I told Gina McCarthy and another lady, and I can't think of her name right now, but I said, we're not here to argue the science, because I'm not a scientist. And we're not here to argue the law because I'm not an environmental lawyer. I said, what we're here for is the citizens of Hood County. And we are a rural county. We're small. We have very little industry, if any. The oil and gas has come and gone. The peak in it was 2008, 2009. It's just gone now. So I said, to us to be put in based on some model numbers that were created back in 2008 just doesn't make any sense. And then then we met with Senators Cornyn and Senator Hutchinson's office, and we met with Congressman Bill Flores and Congressman Mike Conaway, and they had all written letters in support of Hood County not being placed in non-attainment. So I talked to David, name escapes me, over in the senator's office, and he said, I think the primary reason you were not is that you guys went up there. Now, there's two groups of people that went up there. There were 3 counties in Texas that were supposed to go into this. One was Matagorda County, one was us, and Hood County, and the other was Wise County. The 2 counties that went up and presented their case didn't go in.
Right.
Wise County went in. I don't know what happened. I don't know what they said or did or anything, because I haven't talked to their county judge. But we went up there and they told us very opportune time for you to come up here because we're making the decision immediately.
Absolutely, and I don't want that to get lost in what we're talking about, is that when you go and when you have a cause like we had, and there was, what a lot of people don't realize is this has saved us for the next 7 years thousands and thousands of dollars, if not millions. Plus, what about commerce? People coming into Hood County, bringing their business in here and expanding.
There's a couple of things that I'll address on that. One of the things is that we made the point that we said, because of the threat of going into non-attainment, we lost a $70 million plant that would employ between 50 and 75 people with good paying jobs, not minimum wage, good paying jobs. And Gina McCarthy went, I hated to hear that.
Yeah.
But now let's go local. Your inspection sticker would have gone up to like $50.
Absolutely.
Instead of $14.50, which it is now. And so every year how many cars we have, 30,000 or whatever it is, would times $40 or whatever, that's what we'd be paying. So whatever that number is, plus the economic impact of losing that plant, losing the tax revenue off of $70 million, how many $100,000 houses are that? But, so.
It's a trickle down.
It is.
And the fact that y'all went out there and gave the case that you did kept us out of non-attainment.
That's right.
And that is so important.
I consider it truly a David and Goliath.
Yes.
Because we're a small rural county, and the people said, "You're taking on the EPA? Come on, please."
Yeah.
And so but we didn't take them on. We said, we want to work with you to make Hood County's air better. It's not really, and we're not in non-attainment now, but we're going to form a clean air coalition. We're going to do anti-idling, and we're going to do some things proactively to keep it that way.
Yeah, that was one of the things that discussed with Commissioner Hetherington yesterday. It was that the step now is to help prevent this 7 years from now, us being included in it. What steps can we take there? And he said that county people cannot idle their vehicles when they're sitting somewhere.
Right.
They have to shut it off, and just little things like that. But then also to get awareness out to the general public and also to the businesses that come in. We're gonna have stringent guidelines to make sure that this is something that will be prevented in the future as well.
That's true. And there's other things, and the school, we want to work with them. I wish there were more vehicles on natural gas, things like that. I think if we did that, not only would it help our air quality, but it may raise the price of the natural gas, and people that have natural gas wells would actually be bringing more revenue into them. So it just kind of helps everybody. It's like you said, trickle down, rolls all over the county.
Absolutely. And I know that the county will be at the forefront to get some information out to the public, maybe a workshop, maybe some things that they will probably put out there to get people aware about how to better the air quality here in Hood County.
That's true. I would also like to say that there were several groups of people that really came and made this thing possible. Now, there was no county money or city money used on this. There were some groups that stepped forward and helped fund this, I don't want to say fight, but this effort not to be in non-attainment. And the Chamber of Commerce stepped forward and gave money. The Economic Development Foundation stepped forward. A couple of industries stepped forward. Total Equipment and John Campbell stepped forward. And so, without that, we couldn't have done it. What we did is we went out and hired an environmental, not a lobbyist. I'm not a lobbyist,
right,
but an environmental consultant. And he had worked in the Clinton White House, and he'd also been Undersecretary of the Army for environmental issues. So we hired him. He knew all of the nuances of the programs, the government, and who to talk to and where to go and what to say and everything. And Ray Clark, he was a big part of that. Joey Grisham, he carried the load on this, so.
Isn't that great? We have just fine people here in Hood County.
Absolutely.
That whenever they see a cause, they pick up the mantra and just tote the line. I did not know that there was no county funds, and that's good that you brought that out, that was spent to help this issue that would affect not only the county, but every citizen that has anything to do with Hood County. And to thwart this, and it was a big win for Hood County.
It really was.
Absolutely.
And not only for every citizen now, I mean, because of the inspection and all, when you fill up with gas, those little hoses, those
Right.
recapture the fumes, we don't have to do that, and a lot of things that just, which they would have had to spend, I think they said maybe $150 per nozzle or something that they'd have to, it was just unreal, and up to $50,000 for an inspection sticker to buy
Wow.
new equipment to do inspections, and it was just, no telling how many people would have been affected. There would have been job losses. There would have been job losses here. One guy says, well, I can't stay in business here. I'll have
Absolutely.
to move out of county. And, that not only tax revenue, but job revenue, people going to lunch, restaurants would have been affected. I mean, it's just, like you said, trickle down. So, it's beyond huge, just
Absolutely.
beyond huge.
Absolutely. And another huge topic that is on everybody's lips around, and of course I'm talking about the courthouse.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, a big win there, as well as the courthouse will not be painted red.
That's true.
It is over and done with, and there is some misinformation going on around that basically that we were going to be giving money back, but you can't give money back that you haven't received.
That's true.
And let's talk a little bit about that, and about what's going on there and the process that is actually going to take place on this.
Okay, we'll have to go back in time
Sure.
a little bit, and we were working. We got in a disagreement with the Texas Historic Commission. The Texas Historic Commission thought, I don't know where they got the idea. Well, I do know where they got the idea. They thought because this Dodson who built the courthouse, he was the architect, because some of his other courthouses had red roofs, that this one's bound to be a red roof.
Right.
And we went, wait, no, it wasn't, and they say, well, we have pictures here. Well, yeah, but they're black and white. I mean, you can't go with that. And so we had original shingles. They had no red paint on them. I know that Bercy McAtee did an interview out on the courthouse lawn. She had some original shingles, no red paint, and now let's talk about the recapture. That's the.
Well, before we get to that,
No, I'm
I wanted
sorry.
to give you a little story, because I actually am a bit of a historian, as you know, and I spent some time with the Junior Historians Commission and Committee, and I had to do a paper on Hood County, my hometown. And
When was this?
this was in the 70s. This is in
Okay.
the 70s, bicentennial year, actually, 76. And I did some local interviews with some older people that had lived here their whole lives, one of which was 102 years old. Lived here basically her whole life. And we were talking about some of the buildings and some of the businesses that came in and out, and which I thought was very unique. Some of the buildings that was there, I ate at a restaurant once that used to be part of where they had the mortuary. And just some really unique, fun facts. And we were talking about the courthouse. And I said, I just love our courthouse. And she was so upset that we had painted it brown. The trim on the windows and some of the accents were brown. And she said, there's never been any paint on that courthouse. And that to me really stuck out when this thing completely started. Was I personally interviewed somebody that was 102 years old. They told me there's never been any paint on it.
Well, evident, 102 from 76 would have put her being born in like 1874 or something
Yeah.
like that. So consequently, she was grown or well up in age and remembers it when it was built.
Yes.
So she knows the original, and of course there's no one around today.
Yeah.
But 1892, she would have known that.
So I thought that was very foretelling. And everybody that I've spoke with that are longtime residents has told me that no, it was never painted red. There was some tar that was put on.
That's right.
Mr. Heathington
Right.
alluded to that yesterday as well, that there was some tar put on there. And in some photos, they were going, oh, see, that's red, but it was actually
That's
tar.
a really interesting story, because what happened was, like 4 or 5 years after it was built, it was leaking. And they said, maybe it's 1897 or something like that, and they said, we want it painted, or not painted, but we want it stop leaking. And so they said, well, they hired a guy to do it. Now, I've got a question for you. What they were going to do is it was a metal roof, just like it is now. They were going to resolder the joints to stop them from leaking, and they were going to coat it, as you said, with tar a while ago. So, how much would that cost?
Lots.
How much?
And
Give me a guess at 1897. How much?
Gosh, in 1897?
Yeah,
Oh, it probably cost maybe a couple of $1,000s.
that's a good guess. A good guess. $180.
$180.
Yeah. And they
Wow.
held back like 100 or 80, I forget, either 80 or 100 of that.
Wow.
And said, and when it rains, if it doesn't leak, we'll give you the rest of it.
Oh, wow.
So, and you think, but if you were making 50 cents a day, which, could have been, or $30 a month or whatever, it was a lot of money.
Yes.
It was a lot of money. And, and I think that when they built this, the courthouse, then, it was a lot of money. $40,000 or something for the whole thing, or whatever it was. But it was a tremendous amount of money in 1892.
Oh, yeah.
And, then the next year, probably, I don't think they got elected because they'd spent all that money.
Probably not.
Probably not. Yeah, I think people need to realize, and we forget in today's world that those people that founded this county had they came here right out of the Civil War.
Absolutely.
They came here in the 1860s and so forth, after the Civil War. Those people came with nothing, because they primarily, I think Commissioner Heatherington's family came from Georgia, and they were people who lost their livelihoods, and they knew that they could come out here and get land and everything and start over. And so they were not wasting money.
Absolutely.
They would not waste any money making it, oh yeah, I think a red roof would look good. That was not their mentality. I know, because I was raised by Depression era parents. My parents grew up in a Depression. So consequently, when I'd say, Dad, how about, a toy or whatever, I remember we were one of the last people to get a TV, and he said, no, we're not getting it till I can pay cash for it.
There you
But
go.
my dad, we can pay it $15 a month, no, I don't, so
they
I
didn't
understand.
finance anything.
They
back
didn't,
then.
and I understand that mentality. So I don't think those people were wasting money on a
No,
red roof.
I don't think so. I do not think so. Now let's go back to what we were fixing to go to.
Okay.
The giving the money back, because again, like I say, you've got to get before you can give.
Well, here's what happened is that way back when, and under Linda Steen, even that, and then she started the process, and then Andy Rash was county judge during part of it too, and then I came in and finished it up. But what happened is that it was an 85-15 split. They would pay 85%, but then when it got down into the last stages of it, then the Texas Historical said, we are in the 10% holdback. So don't send us any more invoices. And so we didn't. And so there is no recapturing of any money. There is no giving back. We do not have to write a check.
Exactly.
As a matter of fact, they owe us money still. And there is some closeout procedures that we have to go through to get a completion report, and so we still owe money to the architect, and we still owe money to some of the air conditioning things, and some of the trim has got to be done. Once we kind of get a final report, then we can say, okay, are the doors good? Then we're going to go ahead and seal them up and do things like that. But there's still some bills to come. But they owe us, $250,000, versus we owing them. Now, that 300, I couldn't figure out where this 360 something thousand was. Well, what happened was during the process, they said, oh, you need extra money, so we're going to give you $158,100 extra. And so we spent all but $114,000 of that money. So they said, well, since you didn't spend it, since you didn't use it, we'd like that back. So that's part of that big number, but it was never it'd be like, say, I'm going to give you $20, David, and I'll say, would you go buy me a hamburger? And you come back and, and it's not recapturing, it's my change, so,
Exactly.
I mean, it just doesn't make any sense.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you broke it down to that contents. You going to give me 20 for a burger?
No.
Oh.
Well, and I know one of the other things that I read the other day is that the Susan Gamage of the Texas Historic Commission said, well, why didn't they take some of that money and do the acoustics?
Yes.
And I want to. Let's talk about the roof, and then we'll talk about the
Sure.
acoustics. So we said, well, at one time we thought, well, let's talk about painting it, and so they had a paint guy come in, and he said, well, he did some bake-on test and things like that, heat, cool, and how long is it going to last? And I said, we'll guarantee this for 15 years. And I said, that's good, 15-year guarantee. But then the manufacturer of the roof that's on it now said, well, if you do anything, it's going to void the warranty. And I said, okay, but we'll talk to you, Mr. Paint Guy. And he said, now, tell me about this guarantee. He said, well, if the paint fails within 15 years, we'll make it good. And I said, well, what happens if it flakes off? He said, well, if it flakes off, it's probably due to it not being prepped correctly. And I said, well, then, does that void the warranty? He goes, yes. And I said, well, then do you... I said, who does the prep?
Prep.
And he says, well, that's another company. I said, so basically, we don't have a guarantee. It would be like me buying a car and that it was run on any gasoline, but you can only buy mobile gasoline. If you put anything else in there, it's going to void the warranty, And well, that doesn't make any sense. What if I'm somewhere where I can't get it? Well, that's,
I'm glad that y'all explored the process of the warranty.
Oh,
because
man, we
warranties
did.
drive me crazy because it's, that old phrase, that's how they get you.
That is.
And
It's a
with
small
warranties,
print.
so you have to break it down.
Well, and I said, well, basically, then what you're telling me is you don't have a guarantee.
Right.
And I said, I tell you what, why don't you, Mr. Paint Guy, hire the contractors and make sure it's done to your specifications.
Exactly.
And he says, we don't do that. And I said, then how can I put $171,000 of taxpayer money out to paint the roof, and then plus whatever it would cost to prep it?
Yes.
And then in 10 years or whatever time in the future, put $200,000 on the taxpayers. And how can I do that?
That does not make any sense.
It does not make any sense. It does not.
Absolutely.
And then let's talk a little bit about the money for the acoustics. This is a similar situation because it started out with, we can fix this for $30,000. And we said, okay. And so finally, then as they went around and they did studies and they bounced sound off of the walls and they had little, arrows
Meters.
going everywhere. Yeah. And then they said, well, it's finally $60,000. And then the contractor was in, and it was profit and overhead and that, and I know that Susan Gamage said, well, you could take some of that $114,000 and fix the acoustics. But we asked the acoustic guy, we said, hey, Mr. Acoustic Guy, what, will this fix it? We're going to spend $60,000. He goes, well, I can't guarantee that. And I said, well, what you're asking me to do is to spend $60,000 of taxpayer money, and based on, well, it'll help, but it won't fix it. And I said, if I did that, if I committed to doing that, what would the citizens say about my judgment?
Exactly.
And I just couldn't do it. So, those are those two stories about, a guarantee is really not a guarantee.
Absolutely. And, I want to go back to that. If I give you $60,000 and say, this is for the acoustics, fix it, I expect it
To be fixed. Absolutely,
and,
yes.
and if you go through the process of doing that, and then you can still go, man, this place, you really can't hear nothing.
Yeah.
Then where would you be now? It would be I think today, even though there's some consternation out there from some people in the community about not doing certain things to the courthouse, I pay more attention to the details, like you say, and the process therein of, and that is if it doesn't, if they can't guarantee that it's a true fix and that you won't have any problem, then you're just spending money on a dream.
But listen, if your car breaks down, you take it to a mechanic and you say, what do you think my car's broke? And he says, well, it's going to cost $1,000. And you say, will that fix it? Will it run after that? Well, I can't guarantee that it'll run.
Exactly.
Well, why would I spend $1,000? And that's the same situation we were in on both the roof and the acoustics. I mean, I don't know if you can get anybody really anymore to say, yes, I will do it and I'll stand behind it. 100%, I don't care what. Those days are gone, evidently.
Now, the acoustic problem, there's still possibly a situation where we can actually put ourselves in a position. There's going to be a reenactment, a mock trial that they're going to be doing there at the courthouse through the July 4th celebration.
Well, there's going to be the musical 1776 is going to be held in the courthouse. A lot of people say that, of course, they said, well, was it this way in 1891 or 1892? The courtroom was the same. What happened is that the windows were open, because it was summertime, 9 months out of the year, it's nice weather, and and they didn't have air conditioning, so the windows were open, and consequently the sound went out the windows and it didn't bounce all over the place. So that's the reason they could use it. And plus we have a sound system in there that amplifies the sound, which just creates a little bigger problem.
And I said this the other day to Commissioner Heathington, that when I have been to the commissioner's court in the beautiful courthouse, I can hear fine. The only time that I have a problem is when people get up to that microphone and the microphone's here and they want to talk here.
I know.
Or over here.
Yeah.
Because then you have that electronic microphone that's going to reverb just all over the place. If you talk directly into the microphone, it's okay.
I know that people will say, well, let me make this point. Now, John here, and they'll turn away,
and you lose
and
it.
you go, yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
But it's really frustrating when you read things and hear things that are based on erroneous information, and it's just you get half the story, and then you go, well, yeah, it doesn't make sense. Why didn't you use that money? Well, it would have been a waste.
And I've said it here numerous times. If you are a citizen in Hood County and you have a issue with a policy that's being mandated from the Commissioner's Court or City Council or whoever it may be in local government, there are forms where you can actually come out and do that. And that is going to be the second and fourth Tuesday of every month. And it is at 9 a.m. on the 4th. On the 4th.
Right.
And then on the second Tuesday, it is at 7 p.m. And you can come to the Commissioner's Court. There's a form where you can sign a piece of paper, and you can actually speak your mind. And if it's a topic that is of concern or issue, if it's an issue to you, then it's an issue to us all. And you can go out there and you can express yourself. And that's what government's all about.
That's true. And I tell you what I have noticed is that when I was mayor, city council, school board, and everything, when you bring in 20, 30, 40 citizens on an issue, politicians listen.
Well, we'll go back to the EPA.
Absolutely.
You had your form. You brought your form forward to the powers that be, and they made a ruling. And in that case, it was for the form. And sometimes you're not going to get your way. And that's where we all still have to remember we're each other's neighbor, and we all still live in Hood County. We're all Hood Countyans, and we need to be together on whatever decision's made and support whatever era we're going towards.
Yeah, if you don't get your way, don't do like my kids did and go off and pout,
Yeah, don't go off and pout.
No.
That's bad.
That's bad.
That's bad. You could find out yourself living in Wise County.
Yeah. Oh, my God. Yeah.
Then you'd be really
Paying $50 for
Yes.
inspection.
There you go. There you go. Again, that's the second and the fourth Tuesday of every month. You can go to the Commissioner's Court, and of course, you preside that fine meeting.
Yeah,
and it'll be good.
It'll be good.
It'll be good. Anything else we've got? To
You know,
broach on?
let's see, there's always something. American States Bank is having kind of a ribbon cutting today. We went to one over at the corner of Pearl and Morgan for Express Lube the other day. I seem to be going to more and more of those things, and I'm really glad. I support your local businesses. That's what drives this county and keeps our taxes where they are, and hopefully we can just keep on maintaining and moving this county forward.
Isn't it an exciting time to live here in Hood
Absolutely.
County? And you know, the airport expansion, which is coming up
that's
very, very soon, and I know that the city officials are really working on that because it's encompassed, but it's going to affect the county as well, and the city is in the county.
That's true.
So that expansion of the airport, I'm just so much looking forward to, because that is going to bring so much more business to Hood County.
I think that maintenance facility they're talking about
Yes.
is going to be outstanding.
Absolutely, absolutely. So just thank your lucky stars you're living in Hood County,
That's
Texas.
right, absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate your time coming in.
Thank you, David.
You've enjoyed another great interview right here on Granbury TV.